Hey, this is Marlin, and I'm so glad you're here. So let's just go ahead and get into it. As we close out this month on boundaries, I wanted to take a moment just to talk about something that doesn't get enough attention as it relates to boundaries. And it's not the moment that you set the boundary, and it's not even the moment somebody reacts to it. It's the moment after all of that, when you realize that there's no going back. I'm not the same. And it's not because you don't want to go back, but it's because you can't, because something in you has shifted. And nobody tells you this part. But listen, boundaries don't just change your calendar, they change your self-perception. And once you stop overgiving, you stop explaining yourself into exhaustion, once you stop volunteering for your own depletion, you start recognizing things and noticing things that you used to ignore because it was kind of common. Think about this. That tightness that was in your chest when you said yes, but you meant no, or the resentment that follows after you say it's fine and it's really not. The exhaustion that used to feel normal, and that awareness that you have of all of that, that's the point of no return. That's the good part. Here's the truth most people skip. There is grief in growth. Grief for the version of you who survived by being agreeable. Grief for the relationships that worked only when you were smaller. And grief for the illusion that you could keep the peace without cost. The cost of yourself, the cost of self-love. And sometimes though, and this is no shame, you give yourself grace here, because sometimes we miss the old version of ourselves. And not because she was healthier or better, but it was because she was familiar. She knew how to keep things moving, how to make it work, how to hold it together, and letting her go, y'all, can feel like a loss, even when you know you're choosing better. And sometimes, if we aren't careful, this is where many people get stuck. They try to take that boundary back quietly. And by that, I mean you may soften it. You may try to over-explain it or just say it's not a big deal. And it's not because the boundary was wrong. It's not because the boundary honored you, but because standing in your new self feels unfamiliar and sometimes maybe even unsafe. There's also sometimes a loneliness that comes with choosing yourself at first. And it's not because you're alone, but because you're no longer abandoning yourself for company. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. It's because you're no longer abandoning yourself for company. And that takes getting used to. But trust me, speaking from experience, you keep on this track, you can get used to this. But let me say this one thing clearly. If going back feels impossible, that's not a failure. That's integration. That's your nervous system refusing to unlearn what it finally understands. You can't unknow what it cost you to override yourself. You can't unknow what it feels like when you forsake or abandon yourself. You can't pretend anymore that exhaustion is the price of love. You can't pretend anymore that giving and giving and giving and allowing people to take is the price of love. You can't call self-betrayal being flexible. And once you see that, there is no unseeing it. Listen, boundaries aren't walls, they're thresholds. They mark where you stop disappearing. They define what you will no longer negotiate, and they protect the parts of you that are no longer up for debate. And when you realize you can't go back, it's not because you're rigid, it's because you are rooted. And you are rooted in self-trust. You are rooted in clarity and in knowing what peace actually costs and what it's worth. And as we close this month, take this with you. The old version of you doesn't mean you should return to her. Missing the old version of you doesn't mean you should return to her. Just because it's familiar you, it doesn't mean you should return to her. Also, discomfort doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. You just made a different choice. And then lastly, if going back feels impossible, it's because you've grown past what used to work. Like they say, tricks are for kids. That trick, you are over that. You see clearly now. And that's not something to fix. That is something to honor. Honor that. Congratulate yourself. Pat yourself on the back. You did that. You are not becoming difficult. You are becoming honest. You're not losing yourself. You are reclaiming her. And once that happens, there's no going back. My peace is non-negotiable, sis, and so is yours. So listen, if this reflection met you where you were or where you are, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's next. And if you know someone who's standing at the point of no return, share this with them. Thank you for being here. Until next time.